in the chat box that we are live.
It's a wonderful Friday morning, and you are welcome once again to our Living in the Digital World series. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are joining us from. American Spaces provides access to current and reliable information about the United States through book collections, internet access, events, and activities for everyone. My name is Estella Hilda Animan, and I am the coordinator for American Corner Aboba, and I'm so excited to be your moderator for this session. In today's digital world, cyber threats are everywhere. Phishing scams to data breaches and online fraud have become all too common. But did you know that AI is playing a crucial role in stopping these attacks before they even happen? To help us understand how this works, we are honored to have with us Derek Brown, a certified cybersecurity trainer who will break down how AI detects and prevents cyber attacks in real time. So, Derek Brown is a seasoned professional with a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology from the University of Ghana. His credentials include a certified ethical hacker certification from the EC Council and an EGPT certification from eLearn Security. He has 2 years of experience as a former instructor at Coding Dojo and 5 years as a short course instructor in the computer science department at the University of Ghana. So during this session, please type all your comments, all questions in the chat box, and they'll be well addressed. We also want you to engage with us. Tell us where you are joining us from. And so thank you so much for staying with us. Let's dive right in. Over to you, Derek.
Thank you, Estella. Give me a sec. All right. Awesome. So, hi everyone. Welcome to today's session. Thank you, Estella, for your kind words. I'm Derek Brown, and formerly with Coding Dojo, currently with Coding Temple, and we've had several sessions over the years, and today we are going to be looking at how AI detects and prevents cyber attacks in real time. So we'll be looking at what AI is, the key components of AI. We'll go a step further to look at how we use AI in cybersecurity. And our main goal is how does it prevent cyber attacks and in real time? Because you could experience an attack, and if you don't see it, you have already experienced the effect of the attack. But today we are going to look at how to detect some of these things happening in real time and how we can also stop them as well. Right. So in the past, cyber attacks were very predictable, right? You could have an attack happening, and it's just, someone sending you multiple packets or someone sending you multiple requests to the extent that you can't really do anything else. And all you had to do is sometimes maybe block that person or maybe quarantines. There are certain things you could do. So you could block the person's IP address, or you could maybe sometimes shut down your network or shut down a few things, which is not the best thing to do. But in recent years, cyber attacks have changed. They've become more frequent, they've become more sophisticated, and now traditional security mechanisms are unable to protect us against some of these attacks. Before we had a networking device or a security device called a firewall, and its job is just to be there, and it allows things that are coming into your network, we call them packets. So it allows the inflow of packets and then also the outflow, but it tries to analyze what is coming in and also analyze what is going out to make sure that what is coming in is acceptable, or we are expecting this to come in, or whatever is leaving our network has been allowed to leave our networks. This was very simple. But in recent years, attacks have changed. We have a type of attack called a zero-day attack. And a zero-day attack is an attack where whoever made the system is not aware that that attack exists. So if I make a mobile app and I do not know that that mobile app is vulnerable to a particular type of attack, and maybe attackers are having a field day with it, they are attacking it every now and then, as the developer, the fact that I still do not know that such a vulnerability or weakness exists in my app is a major issue. So the fact that I do not know that this exists and is being exploited, then that becomes a zero-day attack. Most zero-day attacks, you do not know they exist, and it's very hard to detect it. That's why it's called a zero-day attack. You have 0 days to fix it, so attackers have a field day on that. So with attacks like zero-day attacks, which are modernized, attacks like we have another attack called an advanced persistent threat, which is also very sophisticated. With this, attackers get on your system and they would stay on your system for a long while, just analyzing how you operate, how you do certain things. And then once they get all the information they need, they can then strike. So they could be in there for months, weeks, even years, just monitoring how you operate so they can gather as much information as possible to strike at the right time. We call these guys advanced persistent threats. And then also we have attacks like ransomware. So for ransomware, these are malicious software. They are like viruses. They get on your system, and then what they do is they're going to lock up the files that you have, and then they ask you for a ransom. So they are like, your files have been encrypted or they've been locked up, and we need you to pay this amount of money. Now, in the past, most people would be like, oh, pay the money, but when you pay it, you're still not going to get anything, right? I think in my last session, I did a demo of that ransom where I showed how it looks like and how it can lock up your system. So those of you that were here, you would have seen that in action. But today, we won't go into that. Today, we are just going to keep it short and cute. So we are not going to go into any technical demonstrations. So some of these attacks are very sophisticated. Sometimes you would not have pre-knowledge of what is about to happen, and you need to be very fast about it. So traditional security mechanisms, what we've been using all these years with a human touch, has not been that good. It hasn't been that fast in terms of responding to these things. But in recent years, with the introduction of artificial intelligence, we are able to use that to sometimes predict what is about to come. If a user is behaving differently from what we are used to, the AI can predict it and even perform an action to stop it. It can go an extra mile to stop it, which is better than before, where you need a human to sit by the computer, see something happening, they will get an alert, and they would want to take some time to analyze it. But with AI, we don't need to do any of that. We decide, it sees it, it recognizes that it's out of the norm, and then it acts on it right away. Right. In recent years, well, that is how we can use AI in cybersecurity to help detect and respond to threats faster. We don't need to spend so much time on it. And it's becoming more popular because now most huge organizations, and we'll look at some case studies later, a lot of organizations are now using it. Major organizations and even governments are using it to detect fraud. Others are using it to prevent data breaches. Others are using it to stop malware attacks. And the fact that an attack happens is not the end of the world, but it's the response that you have to it that determines if you are going to survive or if you are going to have it's how you respond to it that will determine if you are going to have a sound sleep or not. So in recent years, AI is replacing human security teams. However, the goal of AI is not to totally replace humans, because we're always like, oh, there's AI, it's about to take our jobs. Not really. In certain cases, maybe yes, but in terms of cybersecurity, AI is here to sort of enhance our jobs. It's here to take care of all these automated tasks where things that you would normally have to spend so much time on, you have this extra help so that you don't have to spend so much time on. So you can spend your time on things that require more complex operations, right? So we are going to look at the types of AI used in cybersecurity. Mostly, this will be the key components of AI. So we have what we call machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, expert systems. These are the key components of AI, but we are going to look at how we use them in cybersecurity. But before that, we need to understand what AI is, right? So AI being artificial intelligence, it's the ability of computer systems to perform tasks that would normally require human intelligence, right? So normally for computers, you mostly have to tell a computer what to do. You have to tell a computer, when I used to be a developer, whatever thing you need to program it on your own. You need to start from the top. If you need something to be blue, you need to explicitly state that this has to be blue. So with computers, you need to tell computers how to perform specific functions. There's no ambiguity there. You have to be very specific. So with this being said, computers are mostly, we say that garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you give to the computer is what it's going to return to you. And so the same way, computers do not think. Even now, they don't think. But with the introduction of artificial intelligence, we are giving computers that capacity and that capability to be able to perform certain actions that requires human intelligence. So things that only humans could do, we are giving computers that ability. So the computers are not thinking, but they are able to perform certain actions that will look like it's thinking. So things that you would normally do and say, okay, I decided to respond this way. Maybe I say hi to you and you respond hello. You have to probably think to respond. If I ask you a question, you have to think to respond. Today, we have things like ChatGPT that is able to respond. No matter the question you pose to it, it's able to respond to you very intelligently. And sometimes you'd wonder, wow, is this really a computer, or there's a human somewhere responding to me? That's how sophisticated artificial intelligence is. So things that require human intelligence, like learning, problem solving, decision making, these are the things that computers are now helping us do as humans. And that is what artificial intelligence is, giving computers that capacity to be able to perform these actions that require human intelligence, right? So the key component within AI as a whole is that AI is like a bigger umbrella, and these things are within it. The first one is machine learning. So machine learning, with this, computers are able to learn from patterns. They're able to learn patterns from data. So you provide the computer with a set of data, and then it would learn the patterns from the data. For example, if you provide it with 1,000 images of cats, different images of cats, the computer is able to look at these images, and then it would now be able to recognize how cats look like, regardless of the angle, the posture, whatever it is. So so let's say later you come back and you ask the computer, hey, you show the computer a picture of a dog, the possibility of the computer saying the dog is a cat is very low, because it's had a lot of data on cats. It's had a lot of images about cats, and it knows how cats are supposed to look like. So that is where machine learning comes in. So computers are able to take in some data, and then it's able to sort of learn from that data, and then it's able to look at the patterns, and then even predict it, right? So we use machine learning for things like image recognition, speech to text, even autonomous driving, providing the computer with the data, and then it makes those, it's able to detect the patterns. Now, in terms of cybersecurity, we said we are providing the computer with data. So the same way with cybersecurity, we can give the computer a lot of data about so many attacks, and then the computer will be able to recognize the threats within the data. So maybe if people are coming into my network, or I'm communicating with several people, I can give the machine learning model access to that data, which is the communications I'm having, and it would be able to study how my operations are. And then over time, it would be able to recognize threats. Assuming someone is sending me a virus, a file that is infected, because my system has learned from my communications, it's able to detect that this is a file that is malicious. Normally, Derek does not communicate like this, so this is a problem. So in terms of cybersecurity, we can use machine learning to learn from data and then also to recognize threats. The next one is deep learning. So deep learning is mostly a subset of machine learning. So with deep learning, it's where we use so if you've heard things like neural networks, artificial neural networks, the human brain has the whole nervous system has like a neural network where signals are being beamed all over our bodies. So in the same way, deep learning is trying to mimic that, where there's a lot of neural networks that are able to sort of process a lot of things at the same time. So with this, they use these neural networks to to solve complex problems. So problems like the same image recognition machine learning was doing, sometimes speech to text as well. And then, yeah, so with this, deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So it goes deeper, as you can see. So in terms of cybersecurity, deep learning is a more advanced machine learning model that is used for complex threat detection. So machine learning will probably notice it from my patterns, but deep learning will go, quote unquote, deeper to find out that these things that are happening, it may not look like an attack now, but based on how certain attackers have moved in the past, this guy is moving like an attacker, and we need to stop him before he becomes a bigger problem. So that is what deep learning is. And then we have natural language processing, NLP. So NLP is just a field of AI that focuses on enabling computers to understand, interpret, and generate human language. So if I had a group of it was directly interacting with those that are watching us now, I would have asked that, what do you think is the biggest example of an NLP now? And I believe that the answer I would be getting would be ChatGPT, right? So NLP allows computers to be able to understand human language, interpret it, and even generate human language as if they are humans. And with that, the applications will be things like chatbots, and even we have ChatGPT. ChatGPT is generative AI. It generates some of these things. So with NLP, in terms of cybersecurity, we can use this to help analyze and detect what we call phishing attacks. So a phishing attack is a type of attack where you receive an email that's telling you you've won $1 million. Click on this link. You go there, they ask you for your personal details and a whole lot of things. At the end, they would be like, you know what, we're about to send you your 1 million, but can you give us your card details so we can take care of shipping? That is a phishing attack. So with a phishing attack, sometimes it could be very, very sophisticated, and with the use of natural language processing, right, we are able to analyze the language in the text. Sometimes, no matter how convincing it is, because we've given a lot of information, we can use NLP to detect that this language here and these things that are being said is very similar to something we've seen before. And at the same time, this language is very similar to an attack that happened maybe 4 years ago. So with natural language processing, it helps us to analyze and detect some of these attacks where they are trying to trick us to doing something through our email. And then finally, we have expert systems. So expert systems are AI systems that mimic human decision-making. So normally, it uses what we call rule-based logic and knowledge base. So you provide it with a knowledge base, and then it's going to perform actions based on that. So in the same way with cybersecurity, a big example of expert systems would be medical diagnosis systems, where there is no human, but once you provide information on what is happening to you, it's able to detect and say that, okay, based on the information you've provided and based on the knowledge base that has been provided to me, it looks like you are suffering from this, that, and that. And that is what expert systems do. So in cybersecurity, if you are going to use AI, this component of AI, then this helps us in making decisions, especially for automated security. So automated security is a type of security where we do not need the human touch, and we don't want to be performing these actions over and over and over again. So we leave it to the computer. For example, if people in an organization need to access a file that they don't have access to, once they're trying to request for access, and I have automated security in place, my system is able to detect that, okay, this person may not have access now, but then if I check their role, they should be having access to such a type of information. So the AI would give them access to the information temporarily. And after that, it takes the access back. So that is where we can use expert systems to make such decisions and to help such organizations. So moving on from there. So how does AI detect cyber threats? So the first one would be pattern recognition. And with pattern recognition, we are mostly looking at known attack behaviors. This is very similar to the last one, which is threat intelligence. And for that, let's start from pattern recognition. So there are ways that attacks move. Let me see if I can explain this further. So if a thief is trying to get into your homes, right, at night, there is a way they are going to move. They are probably going to come in the dark, maybe. They are going to, when they get in, they are not going to walk with their chest out. No, they'll probably crouch and then, start searching around your living room and stuff. If you are there, or if you are not there, they'll start doing some of those things just so that they are not detected. So in the same way with cybersecurity, let's say if you are infected with a ransomware, which is the one I explained earlier, a type of malicious software gets on your system, it tries to lock up your files, and then after locking up your files, it would ask you for a ransom. Mostly it would be a very small ransom, like $500, $300, because they know if they make it big, you're not going to pay. So they make it easier for you to think you're going to get it. So when a ransomware comes, first thing it will do is it will try to lock up your files. It will put a lock on them so that you can't even open the files. So now with pattern recognition, if such a file gets on your system and is trying to lock up the files, that is a pattern. Now that shows that this is an example of a ransomware. So with such a thing, once it happens and you see it happen, like once it's happening, that is a pattern, and you are able to detect that, okay, this is a type of ransomware and we need to stop it. So that is where pattern recognition comes in. And with AI, we sometimes leave it. You don't need a human being to analyze and say, wow, my files are being locked up. It's taking a while, but I think this is a ransomware. That would take a long time. We don't have that time. So pattern recognition is one. The second is behavioral analysis. So with behavioral analysis, this is where we monitor how users and systems behave to spot unusual activity. So we for a while, we would be monitoring how things are happening. For example, in my house, if everyone, let's say if I have a security camera installed and people are coming in and going out, what's going to happen is I am sort of analyzing how people coming to my house and leave, and they are always coming through the door, right? So I have a camera that has now monitored how people come into my home. It's been able to gather information about the usual activity in my home and how people get into my house. Now, if all of a sudden, whilst my camera is monitoring my home, let's say it's an AI camera, whilst my camera is monitoring my home, my window is broken, the aluminum bars are sort of widened, and then a person is coming through the window, that is an unusual way to enter my house. So once that happens, then in terms of behavioral analysis, that is unusual, and then we'll be able to spot it, an alert will be sent, and then whatever needs to be done will be done after that. So behavioral analysis is where we would monitor how things occur on a normal day. We create a normal baseline, which I'll even explain this further in the other slides. And then anything unusual will be detected, and then it will be escalated. Then we have signature-based detection. So signatures, these are not what you put on your checks. No, these are not what you design and say, my signature is nice, mine is nicer than yours. We used to do that when we were younger. This is not the type. So with signatures, what we are talking about in terms of signatures, especially in the cybersecurity world, is that for every file, there is a signature for the file. I may have to draw on my screen for now. So let's say I have a file, let's say the Zoom application, right? So let's name this virus1. So virus1 is basically our first virus. And what virus1 is doing is that it's the virus. So now if I have an antivirus on my system and it detects virus1, it's going to create what we'd call a hash or a signature of this file. So maybe that signature will look like this. And this is unique to this virus1. Now, at the same time, if I experience another attack, let's say virus2 comes on my system, and my antivirus will be like, this looks suspicious. Once it's able to detect it, it's going to create another signature, which is more like a unique identifier for this particular file. So it's going to create it and then it's going to send it to its central server and then it's being distributed to everyone in the world. That's what mostly happens. Whatever virus you experience, if it's new, whatever virus you encounter, if it's new, it's sent to the antivirus's main server, and then it's now, they will analyze it. If it's something they've not seen before, they'll analyze it. And once they get more information about it, they will now distribute it in their next antivirus update. So that way, if someone, let's say in Kuwait, experiences the same thing, the antivirus will be able to catch it or detect and flag it. So now we have two sets of viruses. They all have different IDs. And so this is one, this is two. Now, these IDs are also called signatures, and they will be kept in a database, right? A storage space for viruses. So anytime a new virus gets on my system, let's say I send this over to, let's say Estella is now infected. Someone sends Estella an email and it contains virus 1, and maybe Estella has an antivirus in there. What happens is once it gets in there, Estella's antivirus will look at this file. It will try to calculate a signature for this file, and then it would compare it to what it has in its database. So it's like a comparison. I'm going to take a signature of the file I'm looking at, and then I'm going to compare it to a database of virus definitions or virus records. And if it matches any of them, that means that it is malicious and Estella has been infected with this same virus 1. So sometimes an attacker would change the name of the virus to, let's say, danger 1, to sort of assume that you will not detect it. But no matter what the virus looks like, or no matter the name you would give to the virus, it would not change a thing, because they are always going to calculate the signature, and then they would compare to see if it's similar to what they have in their records. So with signature-based detection, we are comparing the threats to known database of cyber attacks. In simple terms, with something like a virus, it's going to compare what you have to the database it has of all these attacks, and then it would be able to detect and know that, okay, this is the same virus 1 Derek experienced maybe 4 years ago, and Estella has experienced it now, and it's now called danger 1. Interesting. So this is what signature-based detection does, and this was mostly used before AI came into play. This is how antiviruses work. The other networking devices like IDS, IPS, intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention systems, they all use this model. So signature-based detection was being used by the old model, but even now that we have AI that is able to analyze the behavior, analyze the patterns, AI still uses signature-based detection as well. We can't do away with it. That makes our work easier. And then we have threat intelligence. So threat intelligence is where you are gathering information about threats or attacks. Threats are the same as attacks. So things that have the potential to cause harm, these are threats. So if you're gathering information about these threats, the thing about cybersecurity is, I told you that the antiviruses have a central database that contains these things. Good. Now, if someone experiences an attack on a different continent, let's say someone in Italy experienced an attack and it's not even a virus. Let's say attackers sent them a phishing email. After the phishing, they try to send them a ransomware. After that, they try to maybe steal their personal information. This is an attacker that is sophisticated. They are doing these things step by step. Now, when this is detected in Italy, the step-by-step the attacker took would be recorded, and then it would also be sort of sent. We call those things threat intelligence. It's giving us information about how the threat behaves, how it operates, how it moves, the sequence of events it's going to perform once it gets on your system. So it's like information about how these people are going to compromise your system. So even though you've not experienced it yet, you could have access to this information. You could add this information to your database or whatever it is you are using in your organization, so that whenever you experience that same attacker, you would already know what they are going to do next, and it saves you. And that is what we call threat intelligence. Now, AI is able to gather such threat intelligence from multiple sources so that it's able to predict and detect how some of these things are about to operate, and then it can also prevent it. The goal of AI is not just to detect, because detection is just the first step. With some of these attacks, if you are not so quick in stopping it it could become huge and it could cause bigger damage. So when you are detecting, there should also be actions to prevent it as well. But so based on what we said earlier, which is how AI helps detect patterns, behavioral analysis, now we are going to go a bit deeper in some of the ways AI is going to detect some of these things, right? So we are looking at anomaly detection and behavioral analysis. Now, these things are closely related. They are almost, some people will tell you they're almost the same, right? So anomaly is mostly where an anomaly is anything that is out of the ordinary or anything that is outside of how things should be normally. I explained the thing about my house, and if someone comes through the window, I'm very suspicious about it. Like, okay, this is strange, this is an anomaly. Good. So the same way with computers, with networking assets, whichever thing you are using in your organization, there should be what we call normal behavior for the components you are using or your network traffic. So this is what we mostly called the baseline. It could be a network baseline. It could be a traffic baseline, which is things that are coming in and leaving your network. The baseline is your normal operations, how things happen on a normal day where there are no attacks. So with anomaly detection, we are mostly looking at how things operate normally. And so you're able to, once so it will take a while to detect, it will sort of be monitoring, or sort of be learning from how things operate normally so that it gets a baseline. That would be your security baseline. So that is your normal operations. Now, if there's anything that is outside of that normal behavior or normal operations, then it can be flagged. Anything that deviates from how things are, it would have to flag it and say, nope, this is not how you're supposed to get on my system. Normally, this network does not experience these type of attacks at this time. So then this becomes malicious. So anything that does not conform to expected behavior, that becomes an issue. So, but then with behavioral analysis, it's very similar, but it's a bit different. With behavioral analysis, you are mostly examining the activities and behaviors of users. So with anomalies, normally, with that, we do not focus on the user side of things, even though it's all part of it. We don't really care if there's a user in there or not. It could just be this the hardware and the software components and whatever they're doing. But with behavioral analysis, we are mostly looking at what is the user doing? How do users operate normally? Okay, so if this is how users operate normally on this system, then is there anything the users are doing today that is outside of the norm? It could be a user, it could be a device, but whichever it is, behavioral analysis takes into consideration what the user is doing. So it could be that a user is sort of, as maybe when you come to work, you are always assessing, let's say, 3 files and you are done with your work. Now, there's a day you come to work and you are trying to assess a file that only managers should have access to. You are assessing a file that only the finance department should have access to, but you are already in HR. So these are anomalies. These are not things you would normally do. And this now would come to the behavioral analysis side of things because they are analyzing the user's actions and what they are doing. So we analyze the user's actions and then anything that does not conform to what you know, because at this point, we've seen how you work every single day. And so anything that is outside of that, then it could be a potential security threat. But we use behavioral analysis to help with detecting what we call insider threat. So insider threat is mostly an employee of a company that is still a threat to the company. There are certain employees that work with the company, but they are still malicious, which means they maybe it could be any reason. It could be that they are not being paid, or it could be that they are just doing it out of spite. It could be they just want to teach the organization a lesson, or it could just be that they are terrible people and they just want to do what they want to do. So not all attackers are external people. Some attackers are internal. They could be your employees. And that is something that happens a lot. Some external attacks that happen, there's mostly an internal person that is colluding with them. So with this, behavioral analysis helps to detect some of these insider threats so that it doesn't escalate. When we get to the the case studies we are going to look at briefly, I think Tesla had something like that in 2018. So the CEO came out to say that we had someone in here that was doing this and this and this and that. Now, with the use of AI, they were able to detect that, okay, this user is performing these actions. It's outside of the normal operations. And so we need to stop this person before it becomes more dangerous. So some examples will include you have an employee that is logging in from 2 locations, 2 different countries in like a short period of time. So we are in Ghana. Assuming I just logged into Zoom for this meeting, I logged in and then my location is in Ghana. Within, let's say, 30 seconds, I'm trying to log in again, and you notice that my location is, let's say, in Brazil. How did I move from Ghana to Brazil? You can make the argument of using a VPN, but in a case where VPNs are not needed, in a case where Ghana is your norm, is where you are usually located. So every day I log into Zoom and I'm logging in from Ghana. And I logged in 30 seconds ago from my usual location. And then after 30 seconds, I'm now logging in again from Brazil. Then that becomes an issue, especially when VPNs are not needed. So that is a situation where that would be suspicious, and we would be able to know that, okay, normally you don't operate like this. You don't log in from a different location. But when you are doing that and it's within such a short period of time, then it looks like you're already using time travel, and we probably need to come to you for notes. So that is a very suspicious action. Another one too would be mass data transfer. So this is where if you are transferring stuff from your organization to the outside world, it's always suspicious. Now, one thing companies were not doing before is that they focus so much on what is coming in from external parties. They are looking at, okay, what is someone sending to us? Is it malicious? They focus so much on that they did not even focus on things that are leaving their networks to external parties. So they put so much security to monitor what is coming, and they don't focus on what is leaving. So you could have an insider threat that is transferring your files to malicious people, or maybe sending some of your files, and you will not even notice it because you think that people that are in here can be trusted and people that are outside cannot be trusted, which works in certain cases, but you never trust people. So if you have mass data transfers happening on your system from within the organization, that is where data exfiltration comes in. Data that is being extracted from your systems to external parties or external locations, then that could also be seen as, okay, this is an anomaly. This behavior is not something that is normally being done. Why is this user attempting to transfer 5 gigabytes of data outside of the network? It doesn't make sense, and that can be flagged. So just a brief overview. I've mentioned what signature-based detection is, where we are looking at, we have a database of what is happening or the threats. So we're able to look at the signature, those gibberish numbers I wrote, to detect and compare it to our database to know that, okay, this is malicious or not. Now, heuristic-based is very similar to behavioral, because with signature-based, yes, AI can help with that, but you don't even need AI for that. Normal antiviruses can do that. But with AI, this is where we are trying to detect unknown threats by identifying suspicious behavior, what I explained. So heuristic-based would normally help when you do not know how the attacker is going to operate. In the case of a zero-day attack. So zero-day attack, the manufacturers don't know about it. So there's not even a signature available for you to even know what is happening. So due to that, that is where heuristic-based comes in, which is the same as behavioral. So with this, we are able to learn from normal behaviors. We are able to learn from even the attacks that we are experiencing. So every now and then, whilst you're experiencing attacks, AI will help us learn from these attacks. So if we experience an attack and we resolve it, AI will learn from that data. We experience another one, we learn from that data. Over time, when that same thing is happening again, even if it's not the same way, we can look at the actions that are being performed and we'll be able to flag it. So that is what makes AI very helpful. So even though attack patterns are evolving, With heuristic detection, we are able to find these things out and we are able to stop it. There is an organization called CrowdStrike, and there was an attack, and they came up with they had. I think I'll talk about this in the case studies, which is coming up. So I'll sort of keep all the case studies to one particular section. So real-time prevention mechanism. So there's a networking security component called intrusion detection system. So intrusion detection system, we call them IDSs, intrusion detection system, and then there is intrusion prevention system. So intrusion detection system, its job is to detect something and then it would just notify you. So in the case where I have the camera here, and then someone is sort of trying to get in through the window, an intrusion detection system would only see the malicious behavior, and then it would send me a notification that there's something going on. An intrusion prevention system would see the malicious behavior, send me a notification that something is going on, and it would actively try to stop that thing from happening. So if my camera was an intrusion prevention system, it would have probably blown an alarm. An alarm does not even stop the person, but it may deter the person from doing what they're doing. But let's say if that happens, maybe my camera has some lasers that would beam like the movies to stop the person and stuff like that. So that is an action that will be performed to actively stop the attack. Or maybe I'll just release some sleeping gas into the air, and when the person breathes it in, they are going to just fall asleep, and I'll come and meet them there. So I'll meet them there, and we'll be able to arrest them, and on and on and on and on. So that is what an intrusion prevention system does. It actively prevents, and then an intrusion detection system will just detect and tell you. Everyone would be like, I want the prevention system. But there's a discrepancy here because you don't always want to trust the computer to make that decision and stop something. You would sometimes want the human to come in and analyze, okay, there was something that was happening. The human has to analyze it and say, okay, indeed, this was truly an attack, so let's perform this action. Sometimes. So with intrusion prevention systems, you would give it that authorization to perform certain actions, and you would say that, okay, if it is this type of attack, do not perform the action, just notify me. So that is what's going to happen here. So we are not just looking out for AI detecting stuff, because the time between when you detect and when you prevent could determine the amount of damage that will be done. So you always need to make sure that your response times are very fast. At the same time, you don't also want to be too fast and not miss. So if you are going to be fast and try to stop the thing from happening, you have to make sure that what you are detecting is accurate. So how does AI help with real-time prevention mechanism? We don't want to see and wait and make an action. No, we want to, whilst the attack is happening, we want to be able to detect it and stop it whilst it is happening. Most of the time, some organizations, they'll find out the attack has happened after like a week or two, and that could be detrimental because it would have already caused major damage. So the first real-time prevention mechanism is an automated incident response. Incident response is how you would respond when a cybersecurity incident or a cybersecurity attack happens. There's a difference between reaction and response. With reaction, you are mostly just doing the first thing that comes into mind. You don't even think about it. It's not like you are reacting to something. But with response, it has to be a well thought out plan on what you would do. So in my case, someone coming through my window, I would need to think about it. Like I would need to have planned ahead that if someone comes through my window, how do I detect them and how do I stop them? And if I'm stopping them, what are the mechanisms I'll put in place to stop them? So that is what incident response is. And when organizations experience a cyber attack, they activate the incident response plan, and then they start sort of doing everything possible to sort of revert it, maybe get the systems back into normal operations. But with AI, we are able to come up with an automated incident response. So whilst the attack is happening, we are able to detect it. We are able to eradicate that attack from happening. We are even able to contain that attack so it doesn't spread. And then in the end, we are also able to recover. Recovery has to do with maybe if we had a backup, we had made a backup of our systems, it has to be restored. All these are normally done manually. by personnel. We have to go into the system and say, okay, an attack happened, the attack is over, we've resolved it, but we need to bring back a backup because some of the time traces of the attack still exist. But in the case of automated incident response, AI would decide, okay, this is the attack, we stopped it. Okay, let's quarantine the attack machine. After a while, let's bring it back. Let's eradicate whatever has happened. Okay, let's also bring back the backup. All these will be automated. And that makes it an important thing to have, which is automated incident response. Then we also have AI-powered firewalls and IPS. Remember the IPS I mentioned? Yes, it's back here. So we have normal traditional firewalls that perform certain actions, but with an AI-powered one, it's sort of, there are certain things that are coming. Firewalls are for network analysis. It looks at the things that are coming in and going out. So with an AI-powered firewall, it's going to analyze certain traffic or things that are coming in. They may look like they are legit, they may look like they are clean, but it's able to detect that, nope, this thing you are bringing here, in as much as it looks clean, it's very similar to something I've seen before that looked clean and later turned into an attack. So I want to properly analyze this. And later, if we are lucky, we may even notice that it is actually malicious. Now, firewalls are mostly looking at things from a broader perspective, but then with IPS, they are going to go deeper into the thing, look at what it contains and stuff like that. So with an IPS, if it's AI powered, then it becomes very strong, which means that if we see things that are not, or things that we think are going to cause major harm, the IPS does not wait for Derek to say that, okay, if it's someone coming through the window, release the laughing gas or something like that. No, the IPS will say, okay, Derek has not given me the instruction on what to do. Let's say I've given the IPS how to react to someone coming through the window. But what if someone comes through my ceiling and I've not given those instructions on what it should do? Then if it's an AI-powered one, it's going to make that decision on its own. Okay, I was not given instructions for ceiling, but something is happening from the ceiling, and this looks like it's malicious. It's very similar to what I've seen before. The movement is very the movement is very suspicious. So I need to find a way to resolve this. So, and then there's EDR. So EDRs behave like antiviruses. These are the protections we put on our systems. They monitor the devices we have, and then they resolve whatever thing that is malicious, they're able to resolve it. Using AI, EDRs would be able to detect a lot of things that were not originally thought of. And then we also have AI-based phishing detection and email filtering. So with the emails we are getting, AI is able to scan, right? AI tools are able to scan the emails we are getting, look at how the email is being structured, the semantics, and is able to filter them before they even reach the users. I believe Gmail has that. A lot of major organizations have that as well. All right. And so AI-powered threat intelligence. So I mentioned threat intelligence before, gathering information about how attackers move and how they do what they normally do, right? Their patterns. So with the use of artificial intelligence, we can scan vast amounts of cybersecurity data to detect potential threats, because now we have the intelligence, we have all the information about how attacks work. Now, if we are using traditional software, it would not be able to detect these things very quickly, right? Or it would take a long while for traditional systems to ingest this large amount of data. But with AI-powered ones, it's able to go through a vast amount of data very quickly, and it's able to detect these potential threats without going through months and months of learning. And then with the prediction analysis, with this, we are able to predict all the vulnerabilities in our systems before a hacker might even see it. So that really helps us, because once we have the information, we are using predictive analysis. We are not waiting to see something we are used to, but we are able to detect things that are malicious, and we are able to resolve it there and there. And then we have real-time alerts and automated mitigation, right? Whilst the attack is happening, alerts are being sent out. We are seeing that, okay, something malicious is happening. At the end of the day, mitigation is the ability to reduce the likelihood of something happening or the damage that thing is going to cause, even if it's already happened. So if we have automation mitigation in place, we don't have to wait for this to blow up. But whilst the attack has happened, we've received the real-time alert. At the same time, our AI-powered tool, using the threat intelligence it already has, it's able to mitigate or know that, okay, these attackers, when they get in on our system, they are going to try to encrypt our files. So what do we do first? Some of these attacks or viruses, when they get on your system, they try to download other files on your system so they can perform the task they came in to perform. So if you have an AI-powered tool and it sees that this is behaving like a ransomware, it could cut connection to the internet immediately so that these tools cannot download. And then that way it's able to sort of mitigate or reduce the likelihood of this turning into a catastrophe. All right. So with our case studies, we are going to keep this very brief. So I mentioned earlier that in 2018, Tesla noticed that there was an employee so what the employee was doing was that the employee was using certain incognito browsers and certain accounts, not his account, certain browsers, so where it would be private so you can't track it back to him. They were using these things to change code in their softwares. And that was very dangerous because what if they have changed something that is very important? That could be a major issue. So in 2018, it only took user behavior analytics where they were able to detect that, okay, this is how this users in our organization operate, but why is this user always getting onto a machine using incognito browser? Why is this user doing these type of actions? And they were able to use that to detect that insider threat because they would have not even noticed that this person the person was transferring files outside of the organization. The person was doing so much more that was detrimental to the organization's security, but in the end, they found that using user behavior analytics. Then in 2019, JP Morgan Chase, so this is a bank, and they have so many transactions that are happening. At the same time, some of these transactions are fraudulent, so they used AI to be able to detect that, okay, if a transaction is coming from here to here, it could be malicious. If a transaction is trying to, if a transaction, let's say someone sends money to this account, and then within 5 minutes, their money is moved to another account. Let's say in the 10 minutes, an amount is moved to like 3 accounts, then it becomes suspicious. So with AI-powered assistance, they were able to identify some fraudulent transactions in real time. Then in 2021, Darktrace, which is a cybersecurity company, they were able to prevent a ransomware attack at a major firm. So what they did was they installed or they placed their Darktrace, they placed their AI software, which was the tool that they used to detect some of these things. So they placed it on the network, and then they started learning how things operate normally on the network, right? Now, after a while, when the ransomware got on the system, even though it was a new type of ransomware, it used the actions of the ransomware. So you notice that, okay, I think they used to call it the bounce time. So how quickly are you performing these actions? They used that to realize that, okay, this is very different. I don't know this software, but the actions it's performing is suspicious, and they were able to stop that as well. And then finally, we have Cloudflare's AI-driven system. So what they do is Cloudflare mostly helps organizations resolve. It provides that layer of security. I have several websites that have a layer of Cloudflare on there so that if people are attacking us, it doesn't work. So they have an AI-driven protection that is able to scan through about 5.6 terabytes of data per second. So 5.6 terabytes of data is coming in. It's able to analyze all of them to know that these things are not malicious. And with that, they were able to even prevent one of the largest distributed denial of service attacks that was happening in 2022. So Cloudflare is an amazing organization that has been protecting us. It does it for free sometimes, and I still use them up until now. So some challenges and limitations of AI. So one of the first things we'll notice is AI, but we also have to be careful, right? It's helpful, but we also have to be careful. So with this, we have So false positives is where you think something was a positive, but apparently it was false. So you think an attack was happening, but apparently it was false. Also, if you think an attack was not happening, that is the negative side. You think something was not happening, but apparently you were wrong, which means that there was an attack happening and you were not able to detect it. So there are instances where even as much as we are using artificial intelligence in cybersecurity, we can mistakenly flag normal activities and say they are threats. We can also sometimes not detect some of these malicious activities based on the data we have. Then also because artificial intelligence works on training where you provide it with data, it learns from the patterns, that could also be a problem because whatever the artificial intelligence model knows depends on the data you've provided. And so there could be a bias based on the data you have provided. So sometimes you could have inaccurate threat detection based on the biased data you've provided. So that could also be a problem. It's as strong as the data you have provided. And then we also have ethical concerns and adversarial threats. The same way we are using it for protection, attackers can also use it to develop more sophisticated attacks so that the same AI tools cannot detect it. And then finally, it's very costly to get some of these. It's high. It costs a lot to sort of procure it, sometimes even to maintain it. So it's very expensive to have. And then finally, future trends in AI-driven cybersecurity. First of all, we are gearing towards autonomous security, which I explained earlier. And because of that, you don't need a human to always give you that permission. You don't need a human to come into the play, but it makes it very easy when we are using AI. And then we also have the role of AI in zero trust security models, where zero trust is where we don't trust anybody. Even if you're an employee, we don't trust you. We only give you access to what you need access to. And so AI helps with that, where you don't need a human to give access, but it's able to determine who needs access to this file and for how long, and when do we take the access back. And then finally, we use this, we can use this in addition to blockchain for secure transactions. In terms of the financial world, we're able to have some secure transactions. And then we can also finally, which I did not put here, we can have AI-powered deception technology. We can create fake things to trick the attackers. They think they are getting into our systems, but they are getting into a fake system. So these are the future trends and where we are getting to in terms of AI. And that would be the end of today's session. But in conclusion, AI is growing. We need it. We cannot do away with it. It's becoming a core part of cybersecurity and for businesses. And we have to find a way to balance AI and also human expertise. And then in as much as there are challenges, we also have to make sure that in as much as the criminals are using AI, we have to find a way to get ahead of them because criminals are always more motivated than the defenders. And then also, there are a lot of future opportunities with AI. It's going to develop, it's going to get better, and it all depends on how we use it to protect ourselves. So I feel like the future is bright, and the more we use AI, it can complement our work, and we'll have a wonderful future in defending the cyberspace and also our personal assets. So this brings us to the end of my presentation, and I'll give back control to Estella.
All right, thank you so much, Derek. Thank you for the enlightening presentation, for giving us so much to think about when it comes to AI and how it's transforming cybersecurity and keeping us safe online. I think we have just like 2 minutes. So for those who have joined us, if you can just drop your questions in the chat box and then we would quickly address them. But we just have some few minutes to wrap up. Anyway, so I wanted to ask Derek from my table that from all the presentation you've done, what about somebody who is an entrepreneur who is just starting, their business and all that? What can they put in place? I mean, if the person is now starting, they are just maybe one person now. They don't have any team on board. How can they ensure that they are using AI to keep their data safe and all that? With all that, would they have a little technical knowledge about all the not cumbersome in codes, but in that sense, knowledge, yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the question. So in this case, the thing about AI is we always assume it's an external thing we need to bring in. But the good news is it's not really an external thing. Most of the tools that you would put in place will have a component of AI as part of it. So if you have an antivirus, it has an AI, it has like an AI component that is using to detect the threats on your system. So for a small business, for someone that do not have the funds to sort of get some of these things, I would just say that you do not need AI to have the best type of protection. The normal protections we use are still okay. Right. So like the normal antivirus, having a VPN, these things are still good and you can keep using them. But once you have the funds to go for more sophisticated software, then these softwares will have AI in addition and you would have that extra layer of security.
All right, thank you so much for the session. Once again, always being a great presenter and then teaching us so much about cybersecurity. And then also for everyone who joined in, a special thank you for making it engaging, for engaging in the chat box as well. We hope that you gain 2 or 3 or 5 things that you have to keep safe in time when it comes to being staying online. So this program is partly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy Ghana in partnership with Global Web Ghana. And so we hope that you would join in for another session. So before you go off, please do well to subscribe to this channel, like, and then share it with somebody who actually needs this knowledge as well. Till we come your way again, stay safe, stay informed, and stay cyber secure. All right, bye.